Impact of COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic is caused by the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2. Due to its high infectability, there have been 100 million confirmed cases worldwide and 2.17 million confirmed deaths so far. To combat this issue, the Malaysian government has implemented the Movement Control Order or MCO. Various SOPs were placed, such as prohibition of travelling, mandatory face masks, and non-essential businesses were not allowed to operate. And for essential businesses, their business hours were extremely limited, while also being subjected to various standard operating procedures. While it was quite effective in curbing the spread of the virus, it has led to some very heavy impact towards the Malaysian economy. In this presentation, we will discuss what are some of the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic.
Restaurant industry. Due to the movement control order, some of the SOPs announced were heavily affecting the restaurant industry, such as work from home and stay at home orders, prohibition of dining in at restaurants, and only takeaways are allowed. Due to the SOPs announced, the restaurant industry faces several issues. Firstly, there are less customers willing to visit restaurants now. Several restaurants in KL have noticed that ever since the MCO has been announced, there has been an 80% drop in customers. Secondly, even with reduced income, they still have high overhead costs to cover. These costs include but not limited to rental and worker salary. Lastly, they lose the economy of scale because they cannot buy their raw food and material by the bulk. However, not all hope is lost. There are a few strategies that the restaurant industry can take in order to boost up their revenue. For example, food delivery services, social media advertisement, and set meal promotions. The truth is, with the MCO, business owners have to be more proactive in trying to get customers. Because customers are trying to avoid leaving their houses, so there will be less customers visiting their restaurants. However, they can utilize food delivery services such as Foodpanda and GrabFood to reach out to their customers. Also, business owners should take this opportunity to go online with their businesses. Platforms such as Facebook and Instagram can help them promote their businesses as they allow customers to learn about your business at the comfort of their homes. They can also scroll through your social media accounts and take time to decide whether they want to order food from you or not. Lastly, business owners should take advantage of the fact that most people are staying at home with their families and create set meal promotions that are specially catered for families staying at home. This makes it much easier for families to decide what to eat as they do not have to order food one by one.
Tourism industry. Tourism is defined as the activity of traveling and touring. It is basically a set of interconnected activities of tourists while traveling to a place. Tourism industry means and covers the same things, but from an economic and monetary point of view. Tourism industry is and comprises of all the companies which provide the products and services that are meant and used by tourists at different stages of travel and tourism. However, Movement Control Order implemented by the Government of Malaysia since 18 March 2020 has significantly impacted the tourism industry in Malaysia. Public were restricted to travel domestically and internationally. Border crossing of foreigner travelers is also prohibited during the implementation of MCO. During January 2020 to March 2020, about 170,084 hotel booking has been cancelled, where a reduction of revenue up to 68 million ringgit Malaysia was observed. As the MCO is extended to May 12, a loss of total 3.3 billion ringgit Malaysia was observed in hotel industry. Tourism arrival to Malaysia has significantly decreases up to 78.1% from 20.1 million during January 2019 to September 2019 to 4.29 million during January 2020 and to September 2020. As a result, revenue was decreased from 66.1 billion to 12.6 billion for the same period. The first alternative is that hotel industry should collaborate with amusement and theme park industry and take the opportunity of online platforms such as Facebook and YouTube to advertise their travel package. In the future, they should invest in online platform and create a comprehensive system to produce a user-friendly web page that is the ordering process. They should also promote their competitive tourism advantage to attract the tourists to travel in Malaysia. Government should also help to promote the tourism attraction place by advertising the place in online platform.
Apart from the tourism industry, the retail industry was also found to be strongly affected by the COVID-19. So before we move into a more detailed information on why and how much the COVID-19 pandemic has affected this industry, we must first get to know what is a retail industry. So, a retail industry is a sector of economy that comprises individuals and companies engaged in the selling of finished product to end-user consumers. This industry is quite important in Malaysia as it contributes a lot for the gross domestic product (GDP). In 2019, 16% of the GDP in Malaysia has been reported to be contributed by this sector. So why is this industry being affected? As you all know, in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected Malaysia. In order to control the number of infection of COVID-19 in Malaysia, our government has decided to implement the Movement Control Order (MCO). This decision has heavily impacted the retail industry as it limits the movement of people in the country and caused them unable to reach to the retail shop for purchasing. Other than that, the strict social distancing measure that has been enforced by the government has also caused the retailer to be unable to operate at a full capacity as last year. So here is the table that summarizes the growth rate of different sectors for the first quarter of 2020. This data is being recorded by the Retail Group Malaysia (RGM). From the table, we can see that a very poor growth rate of negative 30.5% was found in the fashion and fashion accessory subsector during the first quarter of 2020, which was the worst performing retail subsector during the period. On the other hand, the pharmacy and personal care subsector has also reported a negative 3.9% growth rate as compared to the same quarter a year ago during the first 3 months of the year. Similar to the grocery retailer, which is a negative 3% in this case, the pharmacy and personal care subsector is also found to be one of the least affected retail subsector during this quarter. Furthermore, as compared to the same period a year ago, the department store cum supermarket subsector is also found to be having a negative growth rate of 8.5% during the first quarter of 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the retail industry heavily. However, there are several ways that can be undertaken to reduce the impact of COVID-19 onto the sales of retail industry. First, the retailers may learn how to fully utilize the internet for selling their products. For example, they may publish their product onto the e-commerce platform such as Lazada and Shopee. Second, retailers can also take the advantage of social media to reach out to the potential customers. For example, they may use the live function on Facebook to push their products to the online users. With these ways, the impact on the growth rate of different subsectors, I believe, will be decreased, and also the recovery of the economy will be soon.
Starting from 18 March 2020, Malaysia implemented MCO due to the high infection rate of COVID-19 pandemic. Besides essential service, almost all economic activities were not allowed to operate. Even the government eased the MCO by allowing some economic sectors to operate starting from 4 May onward, but the higher education sector still remained closed. Such a long period of closure of any tertiary education institute is quite unprecedented in Malaysia. Same like any other business, university and colleagues are also facing financial pressure because of the COVID-19. The economic growth of the higher education sector shows warning signs. The Asia Sentinel report about research done by Professor Geoffrey Williams, a former Deputy Vice Chancellor at University Tun Razak, showed that 55% of Malaysia's private higher education institutions were making trading losses and around 44% were financially insolvent. The majority of private universities and colleges able to continue operate was through new funds and equity injections by the shareholders. The COVID-19 crisis is potentially catastrophic for private colleges and universities because most of them in Malaysia rely on receiving student fees to stay afloat. Besides, it is highly possible that prospective students may defer or delay their studies. The looming of economic recession will also mean some parents may struggle financially. Some will not be able to afford the tuition fees to continue their education. Enrollment of foreign students also will decrease significantly because of the government control over the inflow of foreigners to avoid COVID-19 import cases. This also further strengthens the cash flow of the institution. During the MCO, to continue the learning activity of the students, many university and colleagues were forced to make swift change to move to online teaching. But this is also come with several issues. Firstly is the technical difficulties. All the tertiary students or lecturers may not enjoy unlimited internet access or possess laptops or desktop that allow them to attend the online classes. Second, the coverage and speed of the internet vary depending on budget and the location. Especially for those who reside in rural areas unable to enjoy the internet access, these students run a high risk of being left behind if the classes are entirely conducted online. Last but not least, the quality of teaching will definitely be impacted as well. Most of the private and public tertiary institutions in Malaysia rely on face-to-face lecturers and tutors. Tutorial class are especially important for students as this is the time for students to discuss with their lecturer, to debate ideas and present their work.
Transportation is one of the important sectors in Malaysia which contributes to economic growth. Transportation provides communications, trade and facilitates day-to-day activities such as getting to the workplace, school and healthcare facilities. The current public transport in Malaysia includes airplanes, buses, BRT, light rail transit LRT, monorail, express rail link ERL and commuter rail which contributes to the economic growth. In this pandemic of COVID-19, the public transport sector has been hit hard. There is an unprecedented decline in the number of passengers in using the public transport, whereas the organization also faced difficult questions for their future viability. The operators have to adapt to the new normal of providing hand sanitizers, ensuring face masks are worn by both employees and passengers, and also the need for physical distancing. This challenging situation puts operators who are struggling to push their capacity numbers to pre-pandemic levels under significant financial stress. According to statistics, there is an amount of 10.9 billion ringgit Malaysia lost from Malaysia-based airlines, which are Malaysia Airlines Berhad, AirAsia Group Berhad, and Malindo Airways Sdn Berhad, and also another 2.1 billion ringgit Malaysia lost from airport operators including Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad and AHB and Senai Airport Terminal Services Sdn Berhad. In this case, the government has introduced the 2020 economic stimulus package, which mainly assists in the form of waivers and deferments of payment. On the other hand, Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Berhad (KTMB) has reduced the number of passenger service frequencies during the 7-week Movement Control Order (MCO). To boost the number of riders in using public transportation, the government has expanded the My30 Unlimited Travel Pass, which allows pass holders to travel on MRT, light rail transit, and monorail trains, as well as bus rapid transit, rapid KL, and MRT feeder buses without limitation. Also, the e-hailing segment, especially for delivery services, continues to be creative and flexible to fill a growing demand. It will continue to be part of the Malaysian transportation industry and will remain competitive in contributing to the domestic economy.
The main lesson that we learned from the COVID-19 pandemic is that Malaysia is not well optimized to face a widespread pandemic. The Malaysian government needs to spend more resources to upgrade the healthcare facilities in Malaysia, as too long of a virus outbreak will cause the economy to slow down and enter recession.
The method to increase the tourism business after the pandemic is to advertising the tourism package during the pandemic and allow for online booking. They may offer a longer package validity period so that publics have confidence in purchasing the package so that they are able to travel after the MCO being lifted.
To minimize the devastating effect of COVID-19 to the businesses in the future, a more effective management method must be employed. For example, retailers can apply lean manufacturing to manage their stock.
Lean manufacturing or lean production is a methodology that focuses on minimizing waste within manufacturing system while simultaneously maximizing the productivity. Waste is seen as anything that customers do not believe add values and are not willing to pay for. With this method, it's believed that the further loss of the retailer will be minimized and the business will be more resilient for the future pandemic.
It is advised that the mobility of people should integrate the private and public transport network and services so that they have a better choice in planning their journey. Meanwhile, the operators also need to have a clear SOP to instill trust so that the commuter may use public transport confidently. Such measures should go a long way in helping the industry to recover faster.
What is the recommendation or advice to improve the effectiveness of the online learning? As long as the risk of COVID-19 still exists, university and the college can improve the online learning by let the staff go back to campus on the staggered schedule to record their lecture and do their administrative work. Also, the SOP should be followed, and then the students should be allowed to meet with their lecturer on the appointment basis to discuss with their study problem or any tutorial question, and then the meeting can be conducted in an open space instead of the office room so that the physical distance can be maintained.